Okay. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Contra Costa Transportation Authority meeting of July 20th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And for your roll call, note that members Taylor, Romick, Hudson, Butt, Mitchoff, and Abelson are here, and the others will be on their way. How's that sound? Okay, public comment. Now's the time for anyone in the audience wish to address this august body on anything not on tonight's agenda. You can come forward. Public comment's open. Do we have any cards? Seeing no cards, last call for public comment. Look at them all. Rush to the podium. Seeing none. Public comment is closed. Now's the time for the approval of the minutes for June 15th. Do we have any additions, corrections, or motions?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion Romick, second, but we have, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I got reminded of that this morning. Noes, seeing none, no abstentions. Give you a minute to get who's here, who isn't. Give Christian a minute to sit. Yep, we're good. Passes 6-something. Okay, now is the consent calendar. Generally considered routine in nature, acted on in a single motion. Anyone wishing to pull any item from the consent calendar from the podium? You have any cards to pull anything?
Move approval.
Motion Romick, second Taylor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, no abstentions. We're on to the, we're moving too quick. We're on to the regular, no major items. Let's get to the regular agenda item from APC. Item 4A15, Measure C status update. Who has got the staff report on this? I don't have it.
Good morning, Chair Hudson. I'm Brian Kelleher, the finance manager. I'm filling in for Hisham while he's on vacation. He presented this to the APC on July 7th. This is going to be the Measure C status update. We wanted to give an update on where we are with the funds that are left in Measure C. Measure C program collected about $1.1 billion over 20 years, and the 2011 Measure C strategic plan programmed the remaining $69.4 million for the projects. Since 2011, we've spent $55 million, leaving about $14 million in project proceeds left to spend. As of June 15, 2016, the remaining balance of Measure C is about $19.1 million, which is only about 1.7% of the $1.1 billion. Today, we seek agreement on staff's recommendations for the uses of the remaining Measure C funds, and we'll come back to the Authority Board in the future to authorize any amendments to the strategic plan and any future uses of the reserved funds. We're going to cover about 5 items here that were in the staff report. Approximately $14 million remains in the programs for 6 projects. The major project in there is the I-680 SR4 interchange project that is programmed approximately $8 million for the utility relocation. Staff's recommendation on this is it's anticipated that all the remaining Measure C funds will be expended by June 30th, 2018. A deadline will help motivate sponsors to accelerate project development activities. Staff wishes to set a expiration date to give the municipalities to spend their money by June 30th, 2018, and any exceptions can be considered on a case-by-case basis. In 2008, the authority created a reserve for economic uncertainty, and at this time, approximately $4.3 million remains in the reserve fund in Measure C. Any remaining balance as of June 2018 will be rolled into a Measure J reserve. Staff's recommendation on this is to establish a Measure J reserve fund and roll the Measure C reserve into it, providing the authority with needed flexibility to maintain the authority's credit rating, fund a new measure, or provide funding for other emergencies that may arise. Measure C savings on the projects is about $300,000. Staff's recommendation is to program approximately $100,000 to complete the right-of-way closeout activities on the SR4 West gap and roll the remaining $200,000 in savings, including any future interest earnings, into the Measure C-J reserve to provide the authority with maximum flexibility to program in the future any Measure J projects as necessary. The 2011 Measure C strategic plan programmed $500,000 for program management in the fiscal year 2011 and 2012. These costs were covered by Measure J. Staff's recommendation is rolling the $500,000 into the Measure CJ reserve, which provides the authority with needed flexibility to maintain the authority's credit rating, fund a new measure, or provide funding for other emergencies that may arise. The last item we have here is the potential use of the reserve funds in Measure C that we had talked about. Election costs for potential 2016 transportation expenditure plan. Should the authority move forward with placing a new sales tax measure on the November 2016 ballot, it is required to reimburse the county election office for its costs. Costs are estimated to be between $650,000 and $1 million. Staff's recommendation is to fund the election costs from the Measure C reserve. With that concludes my presentation.
Okay, I see 5 issues and 5 recommendations. I'd like to hit them one at a time, see if anybody has any comments, and then do a full motion at that time. The first one is, should the authority provide a deadline of June 30th, and the recommendation is it is anticipated that all remaining Measure C funds will be expended by June 30th, 2018. A deadline will help motivate sponsors to accelerate project development activities. Exceptions can be considered on a case-by-case basis. Is there a problem? Anyone have a comment or question on that? Speaker card? Okay, then let's do that. Let me hold on the first one. I've got a speaker card from Jason. Is it Beals?
Sorry, my handwriting, you can read it. Jason
You
Beals.
ought to see mine.
Yeah, of Lafayette. Sorry, I scrawled it very quickly.
Okay.
I wanted to ask a quick question. When we're talking about putting this money in a reserve fund for the election, is it just for reimbursement of the election expenses with the registrar, or is this also going to be used for the so-called educational campaign for this tax measure? So I'd like to get clarification on the use when it says election related.
Okay, is that the only comment you have or question?
Oh, the second question would be, I want clarification again. I assume this Measure C you're referring to, they stopped collecting the revenue, was it 2009?
Yes, April.
And then this current measure runs until 2034?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we can do that now. We'll close the public comment hearing, whatever we're doing. And did you get the first question he was asking? I'm sorry. Is the number 5. Let's deal with 5 first. How's that sound? And that is, should the cost be placed on a potential ballot measure be funded from the Measure C reserves? That was his question, right? And some other stuff?
Yes. The funds collected on Measure C would only be used to pay for the election costs, nothing for the proposed ballot measure or anything in that capacity.
Okay. Okay.
Because by law, we can't.
Okay.
Just want to make that real clear.
Okay, well, I've got, and please note, Member Durant's here. So we're on page 5 of 5 if you want to get caught up. And the question is,
I have a point on that, and Supervisor Mitchoff. By law, she says you can't. I think, would there be allowed to spend these funds on an educational campaign?
Not after it qualifies for the ballot.
Okay.
okay,
Good.
we're clear on that. All right, we're back to closing this again, and it's back to us on 5. Is that staff's recommendation? Is the funding applicable for the election costs from Measure C reserves? Do I see a problem with that with anyone? Please note that Newell Arnridge is here also, and Federal Glover. We're moving right on up. We're on page 5 of 5, going through the 5 issues of Measure C. I'll go backwards. How about number 4? Should the authority roll over $500,000 into the Measure C-J reserves? The staff recommendation is $5 million of the Measure C-J reserves provides the authority with the needed flexibility to maintain the authority's credit rating, fund a new measure, and or provide funding for other emergencies that may arise. That seem okay to everyone? Seeing that's good. Now let me jump back to 1, and I'll finish with 3 because you might even have a choice. Should the authority provide a deadline of June 30th, 2018? Sounds good? Okay. 2, should the authority move the remaining Measure C reserves, $4.3 million, into a newly established Measure J reserve? You can read what the staff recommendation is. No one has a problem with that. Should the authority roll the savings into the Measure CJ reserves or program the funds to one or more ongoing Measure C projects? The staff recommendation, program $100,000 to complete the right-of-way closeout activities to Project 1501 and roll remaining $200,000 in savings, including any future interest earnings, into the Measure CJ reserves to provide the authority with maximum flexibility to program in the future to Measure J projects if necessary. Everyone okay with that? Okay, then the staff recommendation is, anyone who wishes to make a motion? Okay, move Taylor, second Romick. The East County action is going on. All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? That's 9-0. Who do we have missing? Now, just Tatson and Pierce are the only ones not here, and it is a 9-0-1 vote. Got that right? We're good? Okay, moving on to 5, there's no correspondence. Any comments on the associated committee reports? Seem pretty brief to me. Yeah, that SWAT is on it. Chair comments and reports. I'm going to tell you it was a wonderful, what did we do this morning that I wasn't there for? We'll wait and get the executive staff comments. Yeah, we had something pretty darn important. And under commissioner comments and reports on activity meetings, Gail Murray asked me for some time for something to do with Bart, so let's kind of step aside and make Gail the 12th commissioner and do your report, Gail.
Thank you. I gave all of you a sheet of paper saying bond financing on it. And I brought this to your attention because it's a response to an op-ed piece, actually an editorial that was in the Times, and we haven't had an opportunity to put a rebuttal in. I think we're still working with the author on that, but I thought you all should know that there were some severe misunderstandings in that editorial. The first one is that we are fooling people by saying it's a 30-year bond. No, it's a 30-year bond. It's like you go to your loan officer and say, will you loan me money for 30 years? These are 30-year bonds. There are 10 of them, though. We're not just having one of them. And the reason that there are 10 of them, and you can see them stepped up in that pyramid, is because under the IRS rules, we have to actually pay out 85% in the first 3 years. Well, there's no way we're going to do $3.5 billion right away, and also it would be very disruptive. So we're doing 10 what they call tranches to spread out the work over the period of time. So you see that it would start in about 2018, and it goes out to about 2065, I think. So that is the period that people will be paying. It is still a 30-year bond. So that was the first misunderstanding.
Gail, can I ask you, I get why you're separating them, but you pay in 30 years, but the effects will be for till 65?
Well, you see that they pile up. There's not just one.
No, I get that, but it does go out to 2065.
Yeah, because look at the top one. When is that?
Each series.
Oh, I see. Each one is the 30.
Each series is, thank you, Dave. Which stretches it out, actually. I want to talk a little bit about this chart on the left. You can see in 2018, which is the first year people would be paying, it could be as low as 80 cents per $100,000 of assessed valuation. And probably towards the end it will be that too. But way up at the top, when we have all 10 of them out there, it could be the maximum, which is $17.49. So people say, well, what does that mean to me? And so we asked our financial planners to average it out over the period. So if people multiply their assessed valuation, not their selling price, which is way higher, their assessed valuation by $8.98, that's what people will be paying on average per 100,000, correct. So that explains that part. The second part of that editorial that was misleading said that if your assessed valuation goes up, you will pay more. and just the opposite happens. If each year, the board sets the rate based on what we get from the assessors of the 3 counties. So if we get more money in one year because the assessed valuation went up higher than we thought, we can roll it over to the next year and make the rate lower. Also, with all the building that's going on, like in my city, all those condominiums, you will be spreading it over more people. So if you spread it over more people paying, the rate will go down. So I wanted to make sure that we corrected that record because it was incorrect. And people are glomming onto it, and I want to make sure that you all know the basis for what we're doing. So thank you for giving me this time.
You're welcome. I think we understand that one. Who has the highest basic? No, I won't go there. Anybody from the right have any comments? Supervisors? You do. Didn't you speak today?
Yes, I did. Are you interested in what happened today?
Since I'm, yes.
At this point, let me just say that a long-awaited project we were able to cut ribbon on, although traffic has been flowing through for the last couple of weeks. But it was really great that the widening project that CCTA has been involved in for a number of years has now come to completion, and it was really a great group of people that were able to stand. Many spoke today, and I tell you, it's just a tremendous benefit, and we see the value of the dollars that were spent on that whole corridor, which is $1.3 billion that's been put into that corridor, and we see that, and we're looking forward to EBART. As someone said today, BART coming through. We have, and it's very visual, you see the station in Pittsburgh that is being worked on, as well as the station in Antioch that's coming to light also. And so we're excited as a region, and so we are just looking forward to those particular ribbon cuttings. But today was a fantastic opportunity to celebrate, and want to thank this staff. They've done an outstanding job, but also the partners that's been involved in this process. You know, a lot of pennies had to be pulled together in order to make this happen, big pennies. And so our financing agency, MTC, which I serve on along with Julie and Amy, was instrumental in making things happen, as well as the work of Caltran and so many other partners that's been a part of this, ECFA, the regional authority. So a great day in East County, and I just want to thank this authority for all of your confidence and your commitment to making it a reality, because if it had not started here, we'd still be waiting. But it's because of the voters that we have an opportunity to celebrate today, because they've been so instrumental in passing the our item C, our item J, and so really it's just a great confirmation to our voters that we will get work done as we commit to. So, thank you.
Thank you, Federal. Now on to the waterfront, right? Mayor Butt, do you have anything? Okay. Romick? Newell? David? Bob?
Yeah. Robert,
Gail?
would you touch on West County and their participant, the regions, that we really appreciate the regions?
I'm sorry, Bob. Are you speaking of the bodies that make up CCTA?
Yeah, in other words, the participation of West County, and because you said that today, and you did a magnificent job of that.
Yeah. We acknowledge all of the various transit districts that are out there and working, whether it's West TAC, 3CTA. All of them are very important in terms of the reality in which we face, and they will also benefit from what's going on in the region, because the traffic flow will continue to go, and not only is it beneficial to East County, but all of the county, and the regions.
It's a good day. Okay, on to the executive staff comments.
Commissioners, it was a great day today, but I want to answer Commissioner Taylor's question specifically. And Commissioner Glover touched on it, and I'll just reiterate what he said. And that is that one of the things, the philosophies that binds us together is geographical equity. And ultimately, over 25, 30, whether it's 20 years, ultimately, you push to get that geographical equity. And that was what Commissioner Glover mentioned, is that West County, Central County, and South County all did their part to ensure that this major commute corridor was improved. And so a lot of resources were focused on that corridor. And so he thanked his colleagues on the commission for their efforts in supporting that goal. And it's done. It's finished. And if you look out there, the question that has been asked over and over again is, how much savings are we gaining for that investment? And if you look at the calculations will tell you it's about 15-minute savings. And so that was a question that the reporter asked me today. 15-minute savings for a $1 billion investment. And I said, but that's only one day. You multiply that by the working days. Now you've got some pretty good time savings that you're able to invest in your families, your children. You can go out and watch them grow up instead of calling them and watching them grow up via FaceTime or whatever as they play in their soccer matches. These projects are done to improve the lives of the people that use it. And we did everything we could to accelerate the construction to gain that benefit. And so I think today was just a fantastic day of us all getting together and recognizing that the transit systems work better down that. There's an HOV lane now. It wasn't there before. The median's ready for BART. Hopefully we'll accelerate the construction of BART to get that in the hands of the people. But the real point was today is Bob and Liz Hall were talking about how they watched the Hillcrest being built many years ago. And they said, by God, we're going to wait here until they do something about that State Route 4. And so finally something is done, it's improved, it's finished, and now Bob and Liz Hall, Jack Hall's mom and dad, are going to have to move. They're going to find their new retirement home. They said they save a lot of time, but this elderly couple said, we've been here longer than the Halls afterwards. I was born here, and I've seen this when it was a one lane in each direction roadway, and we save a half an hour each way. And I said, I like your numbers better than ours. So the executive director report, other than we're doing a lot of legislative hearings on AB 1592 and AB 1665. 1665, as you remember, switched the county to the Transportation Authority. That was dicey, touch and go, but the governor did sign it as he was leaving on vacation that Thursday or Friday to Europe. So I guess all of the time that we spent there, it was worth it. We got involved in Moraga. Moraga has a 96-inch pipe that collapsed. It's buried 30 feet underground. And the initial read from the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, was it doesn't qualify for emergency relief. So they came to pay us a visit. We met with them. We helped them adjust their application for emergency relief money from the federal government, and it was approved. So they get about almost maybe $750,000 to start, much like what we did for the city of Richmond. They had a similar big pipe that when it collapsed, it actually sucked 2 cars into that hole, and then when they were excavating, they found the cars. So we're not talking just a little pipe collapse here. We're talking a major kind of disaster for the cities. And so they were able to get approved for federal money. If you go to page 2, Alta Vista Solutions, about 3/4 of the way down, they want to use drones to help us survey the Balfour project. That's the last project on State Route 4. That's over 100,000 cubic yard borrow job. And the reason why that's important is we want to make sure the taxpayers get their money's worth. And so as the dirt work is brought, as dirt is brought in, the dirt work is completed, we'll be able to take readings of how much dirt they actually brought in based on precision surveying, and we're going to use drones. Why is that important? That's new technology. As Newell, Commissioner Arnerich likes to say, you can get up to 5 millimeter accuracy. Very precise, and your surveyors aren't standing in the middle of the road. So it's safer, it's going to be faster, and so we're excited about that proposal. We had a meeting with Google Waze. Waze is now developing a software package called Waze carpool, and we're going to try to roll it out here in a highly densified area in a city that's to the south of us, and hopefully we'll make a dent in putting people together in carpools as they travel to this location. Actually, it's written there, Bishop Ranch, sorry. I wanted to surprise you, but I guess I can't. On the fourth page, I call them TEP Talks. We went to all 19 cities in the county. Thank you, Hisham, who's on vacation, and Ross, who's in the other room. And we went and we made presentations to all the cities. There were no votes. It was unanimous support. And so I want to thank all of you for your support in this effort, and we'll see where we go in the next meeting tonight. I think
Randy,
that's...
could I ask a question?
Sure.
You spoke of the drones that's going to be used, and that's one of the things that we're looking at right now in terms of the northern waterfront and being able to really close in on the available land along the northern waterfront. That technology. But one of the things I had spoken with Bijan Sorpipi today, and asked the question in terms of the fiber optics. Can you speak to that a little bit about what's going on there?
Are you talking about fiber optics when they rehabilitate projects to make sure they have a fiber backbone for future technology projects? Or?
Right, that we have it along our roadways in order for it to be tapped into and used.
Yeah, so, I haven't worked at the department for 6 years, 3 months, and a few days now. Not that I'm counting or anything.
I thought maybe you had been in touch with Caltran and talked.
No, so the policy has always been putting 1.5-inch fiber optic duct. You don't have to put anything in it, but make sure you have the ducting available for future so that a fiber optics company or a telecom company can come and put duct fiber into that duct. And so there's a lot of empty duct throughout California. So there should be ducting, and I have to ask Susan. Is Susan Miller here? Does that design incorporate empty conduit for a future fiber optics cable?
Susan, I can't hear you.
So basically what she says is, so there's utility trays in all of the structures that Caltrans builds, and so they're empty. So what she's saying is that on State Route 4, they don't have the conduit that runs underneath that concrete pavement. Is that correct? Okay.
I would just say that your report is so exciting that we actually have a speaker card for you, Executive Director. Jason Bezos, is that correct?
Could I ask a question? I'm not.
Go ahead, let him finish first.
I need to try to understand why we did not put the piping in order to accommodate.
So we follow Caltrans's designs. Is that you want to take this question, or you want me to answer it?
You got to go to the speaker or podium.
Okay, she wants me to answer.
That's
so
what I thought.
What we do is we follow the Caltrans design. They do the oversight, and so when they ask for 7 pullouts for maintenance instead of 3, we'll negotiate, but ultimately we'll put that in. That's their standard. We'll do that. If they have freeway lighting, when we don't have freeway lighting, we'll put that in as well. And so my guess is they didn't push for ducting in State Route 4. Empty duct. So what I'm hearing is we don't have empty ducting. We used to put it in when I was there. I'm not saying they changed their standard or their specifications since I left, but that's the direction that we were headed.
And maybe this is a different conversation and a different day, but that's pretty much unacceptable in today's world when technology is changing every minute, not every day, but every minute of the day. There's something new, and not to be able to tie in and utilize that great benefit opportunity is not the way we should be planning. And it's a Caltrans thing. I understand that, but we continue to talk about technology. We talked about technology today on the highways and how it's going to lead us into the future.
Right.
And then I hear that we don't have the setup to be able to supply that.
Let me answer this question this way, and we'll do some analysis, and we'll be back to you on this with a better answer, because I don't know the history of why we don't have fiber in that or ducting conduit. The world's going wireless, and so as the technology gets better, faster, and cheaper, and more ubiquitous, with 5G coming in 2020, the 5th generation of wireless technology, cars don't communicate car to car with a wire. They commute wirelessly. So you've got dedicated short-range communications been set aside for transportation purposes. It's at the 5.9. It's at the Bluetooth spectrum. And there's 75 megahertz of bandwidth sitting out there ready for transportation. And that's the width of a superhighway. The federal government now is engaged trying to sell a portion of that spectrum because it's worth billions of dollars. And so the transportation industry is fighting back. We're part of that fight in order to save our spectrum, because you can put fiber optics, and that's good for the first and last mile connectivity, but the connectivity that you want from the freeway is generally going to be wireless to a hub and then back into your transportation management center. Your irrigation systems generally now are wireless. They're not wired together with hardwire down a freeway. They actually report back to a repeater, and that information is sent to your transportation operations center or to a controller. And so how we irrigate our plants at home is a little bit differently than how we're going to irrigate freeways in the future. That would be my answer.
Okay, and I need some more discussion on this,
Yeah,
but
yes.
we'll save that for a later
Okay.
date.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the speaker card that's been waiting breathlessly to.
Yeah, good evening. Mr. Isaki brought up AB 1665. So I want some clarification this evening, because when I read AB 1665, it looked as if this measure could not go on the November ballot unless it had been passed as this urgency statute, which raises the question of this AB 210, which I think had been used as the legal basis for bringing forward the measure. You're running up against the state, the cap on 2% local sales tax, so it was very peculiar. I mean, when you read in it, it says the special law is necessary because of unique fiscal pressures being experienced in the County of Alameda and by the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Nowhere else in the state, I guess, is experiencing these unique fiscal pressures and providing, quote, essential transportation programs. And so that AB 210 was the first step. It was to help allow Alameda County to get its tax measure through, and I think this body actually supported AB 210. So the question is, why did this body support or have its legislative advocate push AB 210 if it didn't do the job to get this on the ballot in November? Or maybe I'm missing something. Or why was this AB 1665 needed? So I'd like some clarification, because it seemed if this AB 1665 hadn't passed, there would be no a tax increase measure on the November ballot.
Okay. Before you answer that, we have one other comment. Let's get them all out of the way. Member Taylor?
All right, I'm going to also, Mr. Supervisor Glover, I'm really relying on you to do the good job you always do. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of things. This is informative to CCTA in the fact of cameras on that entire, I think we need to, transportation is definitely involved in this. And Brentwood is now looking to put ours up also, so maybe not elaborate, but elaborate.
I appreciate that, and I thought that's where you might have been going. But let me just say that because of all of the highway shootings that have taken place over time, it has become a transportation issue because it deals with our highways. One of the efforts that's been put forth has been by the city of Pittsburgh, and they initiated this to put cameras within their city. And those cameras, in turn, have probably resulted in the fact that now people are going to the highways and doing the shooting. So the city of Pittsburgh, over the last decade, has built the infrastructure in order to monitor that, which comes at a big price. I think they may have spent over $3 million to make that happen. So along with the city of Pittsburgh, ECRFA, East County Fee and Finance Authority, came on Thursday night and approved $100,000 to get more cameras out that would be able to look at intersections, people coming in and out, as well as be able to cameras to read license plates, which is also very helpful and been very successful in a very short period of time, that they've been able to really, within the first 10 hours, there were 10 cases that got either turned over to the DA's office or arrests were made because of the fact that the license plate reader was in place, and it identified that the car or individuals within the car had created some type of criminal activity. And so they were able to make those arrests. Also, what has happened since then is because of the Keller Mitigation Fund, which I operate out of my office, is within the city of Pittsburgh, or Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and parts of Antioch. We were able to also identify $100,000 to really beef up this program and make sure that it works. The ability to do that, I think, has been very resourceful. But at the end of the day, what has happened to really kick this thing off is because local folks have put their money up to make it happen. There has been no finger pointing. The folks within the cities, within the city of Pittsburgh and the Keller Claim Mitigation Fund, as well as ECRFA for all of those cities going east, have put skin in the game and to really be able to watch this. Nobody is able to go in and out of that East County region without being having a photo op, and those license plate checkers have once again been very, very productive in making sure that they are catching people that have been involved in some type of criminal activity.
And then follow up on your comments through the chair.
One more. Go ahead.
Well, the deal was too, Caltrans, these cameras are actually on the freeway signs on Highway 4. And I understood BART also, with BART at Hillcrest, will also have cameras, and Pittsburgh. So this, and now Brentwood, we're already putting our license plate readers. We're now looking to tie in, so we could have a run all the way from Highway 4 Brentwood all the way through the Pittsburgh. Or Bay Point. It's a big deal, and it is transportation involved, and I just wanted to explain that.
You know, Bob, one of the other things that's taken place is because a lot of this activity has taken place within Highway 4 and the I-80, and so we're looking for that type of infrastructure that'll be able to make sure that it works, that the dollars that are being spent will be spent in the best way. But again, it takes communities that are going to spearhead this effort. It's not going to be on the part of the state. So if we get state relief, that's great. But communities have to come up and put some skin in the game, I think, initially to make this happen. And we may be coming back here to have a discussion in terms of what our opportunities might be with CCTA.
Okay, very good report on Highway 4. Now, before we move to finish this part of tonight's meeting, something about 1665, you were asked.
Commissioners, this is actually a record for the length of my executive director's report.
know.
So I really, I'm amazed.
It's not gonna happen
There's
again.
a lot of people here. So to answer your question, sir, so AB 210, Wykowski, we were added late. It basically raised the cap on the sales tax for local agencies by 0.5%. It allowed the county of Alameda and the county of Contra Costa to place a measure on the ballot based on the fact that they had extra capacity. So that was signed by the governor in 2013. Okay. So we're moving along, and we realize that ultimately, and I don't have a long history here, so I don't know who placed the measure on the ballot, the nuances of that. But in our case, in Contra Costa County, it's not the county that does that. We only have 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, where Alameda County has all of them, right? They have all of them. So didn't catch it, so we needed cleanup language, and that's what AB 1665 did. It basically took out Contra Costa County and placed Contra Costa Transportation Authority. That's all it did. And it had to be urgency. In order to place it on the ballot, we had to have the governor, when he signed it, it had to go into law. We couldn't wait to January 1st, 2017.
Okay, sounds good. We have two other items. Please note there's no meeting in August. Calendar of upcoming events. Any comments on it? Seeing none, we will adjourn the CCTA board meeting to Wednesday, September 21st at 6 o'clock. And we will start our TEP meeting as soon as we get our chair and vice chair in here in the next 5-10 minutes. Meeting adjourned. How much? 15. Oh, 15 minutes, okay.
Why so long?